Hey guys, it's Chris. From ancient earthquake detectors to batteries to building methods and more, join me as I reveal 9 of the oldest technologies scientists still can't explain. Number 9. Early earthquake detection device. In modern times, there are various instruments to help predict and measure the intensity of earthquakes, but these devices were hardly original, as one similar device was somehow made in 132 AD by a Chinese astronomer. Not much is known about the vessel itself, and the only visual of it is a replica that was made of the device. According to stories, though, whatever made it work allowed it to show where the direction of an earthquake was. On the vessel, there were dragons, each indicating a direction, and below them were toads with their mouths open. When an earthquake tremor reached the vessel, the dragon that was closest to the direction would actually spit out its ball into the toad below it, thus showing where the earthquake was. The texts that talk of this device also note that it had the ability to detect earthquakes 400 miles away. But how any of that is possible, let alone how it was built to work with such efficiency in 132 AD, is a bit of a mystery. But perhaps the biggest mystery of all is that while we know what the seismograph looked like on the outside, we have no clue as to what the insides were. And whatever was inside there was likely the reason the device worked at all. Still, it's impressive that those nearly 1900 years ago were able to craft such a device with any degree of accuracy. Number 8. Asuka Stones. All over the world, we have various structures that have proven mysterious, not just because of their simply being there, but the work that was put into their carvings. A great example of this can be found in Asuka, Japan. In this place, there are many stone structures that defy belief because it's clear that they've been placed upon one another in certain spots and carved in others. Yet as to what the purpose of the carvings are, no one really knows, which brings us to the mystery of how the ancient Japanese were able to do this. It's believed that these were made over 2,000 years ago, and some of the stones that were found to be carved were made of pure granite, which, as you hopefully know, is one of the hardest rocks in the world to cut even with modern tools. The largest of the stone structures is Masuda no Iwafune. This is a large stone structure approximately 11 meters in length, 8 meters in width, and 4.7 meters in height. The upper surface is flat with a shallow trough and 2 square holes. Spacing, carving, and intent of these stones is a mystery to the world, and they don't line up with other structures and stones that we know the origins to in the area. So how were they made? Why were they made? Also, how many more of them are out there in the world? Number 7. Jain temples. Located in Hassan in Karnataka in the nation of India, the town of Shravanabelagola is a pilgrimage point for many, mainly because of the exotic Jain temples that reside there. The mystery of this location lies not just in the temples, but the way the temples were constructed. The Jain temples were made over 1,000 years ago at best guess, and when you look at them, you'll see not just detail, but intricate detail. Why does that matter? Simple. The detail goes beyond just carving and shaping the stones. It's shaping them in a way that is perfectly symmetrical. Many have noted that if it were the modern day, this would be possible with a lot of work and effort. So that just makes it all the more curious that a culture 1,000 years previous, without the benefits of modern tools and methods, would make this possible. Number 6. Ural mountain coils. In Russia, near the Ural Mountains, there have been discoveries of small objects that truly boggle the mind. Mainly in 1991, items were found in the banks of rivers as people were searching for gold. What items were found? Well, coils, shafts, and other objects. While this wouldn't be odd per se, when they observed the items, they realized they were old. Very, very old. How old? Try 300,000 years old, which is older than many people think humanity has been around. Now granted, given enough time and elements, an object can be shaped to seem man-made, but in the case of these coils, that would take a lot of precision work from nature. Not to mention, they're made up of copper and tungsten, which means that some serious work would have had to be done in order to make the coils look the way they do. Add to all of that, they were found 40 feet underwater. So when you combine that with the surroundings, it's nearly impossible that someone just put them there. Thus, some people think this is proof of either alien life or time travel. Number 5. The BAALBEK monolith. In Baalbek, Lebanon, stands one of the most curious pieces of history in terms of a massive granite monolith. It stands many thousands of years old and is one of a few blocks that are part of the Temple of Jupiter that is nearby. Because of this, many people think that it was crafted by the Romans many ages ago. However, certain researchers and scientists disagree with that. Said people believe that the giant rock came first and that it was a lost civilization that built it. Thus, the Romans merely came along and built their temple on top of it. The big mystery is how anyone could not just carve them, but then move 3 1,000-ton blocks into the places they needed them to go. Even if the Romans had done it, it would have been a struggle for them and their vast manpower. Just as curious, another one was found in a quarry nearby and weighs over 1,600 tons. The stone slab is so perfectly shaped and carved that you can walk on it and not fear falling off. Number 4. Baghdad batteries. The modern battery is one of the most important technological breakthroughs of modern times, but in the ancient days, they may have had their own kind of battery. This is not speculation though, as a site in what was Mesopotamia and is now Iraq found a special jar that was believed to be an ancient form of battery. Jars were of terracotta, but the insides contained a copper rod and a spike as well as asphalt cork on the top. But before it was sealed, the battery was said to be filled with an acidic liquid. Many believe it was either lemon or grape juice. The result was something that could indeed produce an electrical charge. Many have gone back and forth as to what the use of such a battery was for back in 250 BC to 250 AD, when it was believed they were made. And it got so divisive that it actually ended up on the show Mythbusters. They tested whether it could be used for electroplating and found that it could indeed work. Then there was acupuncture, via using the electric jolts to ease pain like in some modern practices. And it did work to an extent. And then, given the times, they tested whether it could work as a religious experience. All three were found to be plausible, but the catch was that a singular battery didn't have enough juice to really do much. But put enough of them together, and you did get results. Whether the Mythbusters or other scientists are right in their beliefs about the batteries is a bit unclear, but one thing is very clear. These batteries were made for something. Number 3. Black granite sarcophagus. Finding a sarcophagus in Egypt is nothing new. However, in 2018, a very curious kind of sarcophagus was found in Alexandria. What set this one apart was that unlike most burial sarcophagus associated with Egypt, this one was pure black granite and had no markings on it that would indicate what or who was inside. The item was found during a routine excavation of a building in Alexandria, and it caused quite a stir due to the ominous-looking nature of the item. Many people even felt it might be cursed due to its jet black coloring. Just as interesting, though, was that it was buried 16 feet below ground, and it wasn't alone in the spot it was found. A few weeks after the finding, archaeologists from Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities opened the sarcophagus and found 3 bodies inside. While this did answer one question, it did raise many more, including why these 3 were in the coffin, why they were put in such a coffin, and why they were buried so deep. Was it some kind of punishment for the 3? Why were they in a coffin of this type? The answers have yet to be found. Not to mention, why go through that much effort to make such a giant granite sarcophagus and then bury it 16 feet below ground? Number 2. Stone Age tools that rewrite history. One of the biggest questions about humanity was, when did they start to leave Africa to populate the rest of the world? At one point, people believed that the answer was 60,000 years ago, but new findings put all of that into doubt. This all started with a dig site in southern India that found tools from very long ago. To be more specific, over 200,000 years ago. These tools were from the Stone Age, and yet they were over 150,000 years before the group of Africans came out of the continent. This led many scientists to wonder how the tools got there long before they should have. This clearly shows that populations with this culture were present in most parts of South Asia, adapting to local factors and with tool types evolving and changing through time, says Shanti Pappu of the Sharma Center for Heritage Education in India. The new theory that's being formed is that the Homo sapiens of Africa actually left the continent in massive groups, some going out hundreds of thousands of years before the others for one reason or another. This would explain how the tools got there, and yet how the European continent was not occupied by Homo sapiens until later. An initiative is taking place to try and find more ancient Stone Age tools, date them, and figure out what happened and when. Should more be found, a new timeline of human life could be made. And if that happens, human history could truly be written and rewritten at the same time. Number 1. Dragon and Griffin megaliths. Due to the process of time and weather, it's impossible to know all the things that were made by the ancient people of the land. And one such case can be found in Russia, where 2 giant megaliths were rediscovered after people noticed that they were clearly carved into. The megaliths themselves are of a dragon and a griffin, 2 ancient creatures in many mythologies. They look distorted now because of weather and time, but the shapes can still be partially seen. The rocks that make up the megaliths are granite and were clearly hand-carved, but they're also not new in the wider scope of things, because on estimates, these sculptures are over 12,000 years old, which makes it all the more curious that they exist at all, because the time, energy, effort, and creativity needed to make these sculptures would have been daunting. Granite is not easy to carve and shape, and to do it at the end of the previous ice age makes it even more confusing. At present, the people researching the megaliths do not know who or how in regards to them being made. Thanks for watching. What did you think of these ancient technologies that scientists still can't explain? Do you think we'll ever find out about any of their secrets? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to World List, and I'll see you next time.